Very good morning to all students. Today, could not conduct the class with ERP. There must be some problem, I guess. From tomorrow onwards, we are going to meet up with Google Meet. Okay, and I shall be sending you the link very soon once I am ready with that. Okay, today we were supposed to learn the finishing part, the concluding part of Iswaran the Story Teller. Now, what we have learnt in our last video, a small recapitulation of it. Iswaran told a story about the woman ghost holding a fetus in her hand to Mahendra, just to make him scare out of his life, right? And it actually showed its effect. You see, the way of him telling the story, narrating it, his vocalization, his storytelling art showed its effect on Mahendra. Mahendra, however, came up with an opinion of having ghosts and spirits only as a figment of one's mind, one's imagination. But in the night he was thinking about this woman ghost. It shows that he was scared. He was frightened, right? So from then onwards, we were supposed to take our chapter forward. Let's see what happens next. Right, I'm here on page number 17. Right, he had always liked to admire the milk white landscape on full moon nights. But after hearing Ishwaran's story of the female ghost, he avoided looking out of his window altogether when the moon was full. You see, this woman ghost who appears frequently, she appears especially on the full moon nights, which is liked and appreciated more by Mahendra. Mahendra loves the white glow, the white appearance during the full moon night, and he enjoys the cold feeling, a bit of cold feeling. But after hearing Ishwaran's story, and after seeing a ghastly shape, a dusky shape, during the dark on the same night, Mahendra is quite scared to look out of his window, especially in the night. You see, he forgot all about to appreciate the full moon night white glow outside, and he decided not to have a look, right? So from then onwards, we are taking it forward now. One night Mahendra was woken up from his sleep by a low moan close to his window. At first he put it down to a cat prowling around for mice, but the sound was too guttural for a cat. He resisted the curiosity to look out, lest he should behold a sight which would stop his heart. Okay, you see what happens to Mahendra after hearing the story from Ishwaran. This is the effect of his story, right? Let's see that. Once in the night, while he was resting in bed, he heard something right at the window. Perhaps his bed was by the window, so he could hear some sort of low moaning, the whining voice of like a cat, the one who's back and forth, moving restlessly here and there, looking for a mice. But then when he listened to it carefully, he could find out that this sound was not the cat's sound. This was more guttural, that is like grunting, like something like the gutters that we have in our throat. It was more of guttural sound. He resisted the curiosity. See, he was so scared, he did not want to peep out of the window. Otherwise, what happens? Perhaps he was likely to see something which will stop his heart. You see, this is the effect of the story told by Ishwaran. But the wailing became louder and less feline. You see, this sound of the guttural sound was even louder and less feline. This word feline you have already learnt in Macavity, the mystery cat. It was not the sound coming from the cat. You see, this was some different sound that he has ever heard before. He could not resist the temptation anymore. He was so curious to find out whose this voice was. Lowering himself to the level of the window sill, he looked out at the white sheet of moonlight outside. There, not too far away, please underline this, there, not too far away, was a dark, cloudy form clutching a bundle. Mahendra broke into a cold sweat and fell back on the pillow, panting. You see, we talked about the figment of imagination when somebody talks about ghost and the spirits. According to Mahendra, he says this is only the fabrication of someone's mind. This is a product of one's mind, their own mind. Sometimes, and we talked about it, we also discussed that sometimes we see what we want to see and we hear the sounds what we want to hear. We don't see what is actually there and we don't hear what is actually there, right? So this is perhaps based on it. See, what did he see as soon as he just peeped out of his window? He looked at, a sort of cloudy form was holding something in the hand, a sort of shape that he has seen. Mahendra broke into cold sweat and he fell back onto the pillow, panting. Panting is heavy breathing. As he gradually recovered from the ghastly experience, he began to reason with himself. You see, he started talking with himself. Did I see something? What was it? Did I see something which was, told by Iswaran? Or did I see something which was actually there? He was confused. So he started reasoning with himself. And finally what he concluded, that it must have been some sort of auto-suggestion. Auto-suggestion is the idea suggested by one's mind, own mind, without someone telling them. So he thought, perhaps it was only the product of my mind. I perhaps fabricated it by myself and it was not there. Or it was some trick that his subconscious had played on him. Okay, that is very much likely. By the time he had got up in the morning, had a bath and came out to have his breakfast, the horror of the previous night had faded from his memory at all. You see, Iswaran greeted him at the door with his lunch packet and his bag. Now, you see, still the thought, the idea was still there in Mahendra's mind and it was still haunting him. But perhaps Iswaran, he forgot all about what the story he told. He was ready there, as usual, waiting for Mahendra to come with the lunch packet and all the belongings that he had to take. Just as Mahendra was stepping out, Iswaran grinned and said, "Sir, remember the other day when I was telling you about the female ghost with a fetus in her arms? You were so angry with me for imagining things, isn't it? Well, you saw her yourself last night. I came running hearing the sound of moaning that was coming from your room." You see the dots, the dot, that means he could not finish his sentence. He could not finish his talk. What did he remind to Mahendra while he was going to his work, about to leave? He reminded him the story that he told him the other day, that I told you the story of a woman ghost holding a fetus. Oh, and it was too much for Mahendra. Before Iswaran says anything, see, Iswaran keeps on reminding him the same thing, wherein Mahendra wants to forget about it. So before he finishes his sentence, he leaves. A chill went down Mahendra's spine. He did not wait for Iswaran to complete his sentence. he hurried away to his office and handed in his papers, resolving to leave the haunted place the very next day. See, what did he do? He was so frightened, so scared that that day when he went to work, he resigned from his job, handed all the papers required, he did the needful, and both of them, Iswaran along with Mahendra, left that haunted place once and for ever. Right, this humorous story written by Rashipuram Krishna Swami Iyer. Right, that is an Indian cartoonist and a humorist known fondly as R.K. Lakshman. Right, told by him. Now, you see, this is all about the storytelling art. In your glossary, there are only few words given. Enthrall, that is the state of being in someone's power. You see, as if someone cast a spell on you and you just are, hypnotized. That means enthrall. Depredations refer to the destruction caused by the mad elephant. The guttural sound, the sound produced in the throat, the harsh sound. Feline, that is relating to the member of the cat family. Okay, now without much ado, I want to discuss the question answers. And once the question answers are discussed, I want you to start writing in your CW. Okay, question 1 says, in what way is Iswaran an asset to Mahendra? Well, what Mahendra thought of Iswaran and what Iswaran did for Mahendra. Iswaran was an obedient servant, you see. He did not only cook for Mahendra, he was quite caring and hardworking. He didn't only cook for Mahendra, he washed his clothes, he did all the domestic tasks, all the household chores, cooking meals, washing his clothes, and also talked with him, in a caring manner so that Mahendra doesn't feel lonely. You see, especially at the night, he told him those unique stories. And wherever Mahendra went for his job, we know what was the nature of his job. That was, he was a traveling construction supervisor. Right? So he also moved from one to the other place carrying so many belongings with themselves without complaining. You see, he never mourned about any, scarcity or any lack in life anywhere. So that was one of a good quality of Iswaran, though being a servant. That's why Mahendran says that he is an asset to me. You see, something that a valuable property that he cannot let go of. Right. The second question says, how does Iswaran describe the uprooted tree on the highway? Well, Iswaran describes the uprooted tree, in an larger than life view, sort of exaggerated view. He loves to spice up his stories because all his stories are influenced from Tamil literature. He is a very good reader. So whatever he reads, he uses the same knowledge and learning in telling the story, right? So instead of telling that once I came across a fallen, uprooted tree, what he would do, he would add a lot of vocalization, a lot of voice modulation to his story, and also the gesticulation, right? What he would do to describe the, incident, to describe the scene of uprooted tree, he would utilize his dramatic skills, right? And then he would say the road was all deserted and he saw something lying on that deserted road, which was like, quite enormous, as if a mammoth beast lying across the road. And initially he thought he wanted to change his direction, but curiosity gotten on to his scruples, and then he went closer and found there was nothing but a fallen tree. You see, so why does he add so many things? Finally, what was his purpose? The second question says, what effect does he want to create in his listeners, amongst his audience? He wants to create the curiosity, the sense of suspense, and a lot of surprise. He wants to grip his audience into the listening of the story. So that's why he always loves to exaggerate the form, the genre of his story. Right. The third question, yes, says that how does he narrate the story of the tusker? The tusker refers to the mad elephant, right? He told the maddened elephant's story again in a non-practical way. That is again the exaggerated way. He narrated the story of the tusker in a way, it was actually, he meant to rouse the curiosity in the listener's mind, and he told the story in a way which was practically not possible. You see, something that he wanted to put up very in a bigger picture, in a greater way, which life does not permit. Can we imagine Junior Iswaran coming down from the rooftop having a cane in his hand and just waking one cane on the elephant's toenail, and elephant goes into a deep sleep or just fainting? Is this plausible? I mean, is it practical enough? No, it is not. So what does he do basically? He exaggerates the form of the story just because he wants to see the effect of his story on the audience, right? So he talks and he tells this story in an unpractical way, you see. All right. Does it appear plausible? Plausible refers to practical. Was it practical? Does it happen in real life? No, it does not appear plausible. You see, technically the story of the maddened elephant is in two parts. The first part of the elephant escaping from the timber yard and getting mad, getting crazy, and causing lots of destruction. This is very much possible in real life. It is possible. And we have seen, you see, how elephants, when they get mad, it is very difficult to control them. But in the second part of the story, young Ishwaran going to the elephant and calming him down, that is not plausible. So when you write your answers, children, you have to mention this, that in the later part of the story, the end which is attached to the story is practically not plausible. Okay, it is not possible. Number 4 says, why does the author say that Ishwaran seemed to more than make up for the absence of a TV in Mahendran's living quarter? Now, this you need to understand. Ishwaran is an expert storyteller, and he tells the stories of all genres, adventurers, thrillers, horrors, and he utilizes the storytelling art, the features. For an example, he uses a lot of voice modulation, he uses body language, gesticulation, you see, and he especially tells the stories in the night so that Mahendra remains entertained and he keeps thinking about the stories in night. So it is his inimitable way of telling the story, a very unique way of telling story, to which Mahendra listens to it uncritically. That means without any critique, whether the stories are practical or not, whether they can be truthful, is it possible in the real life or not, that is altogether a different thing for Mahendra. But he loves the stories told by Ishwaran because of his unique way of telling the story. You see, Mahendra could listen to it and he would love the development in the story. That's why he says, I don't need a television set in my quarter. Ishwaran is the one who can replace the TV set for him. Right? Right. Number 5. Mahendra calls ghosts or spirits a figment of one's imagination, right? What happens to him then on a full moon night? Mahendra calls ghosts and the spirits a fabrication of one's imagination because he did never believe in ghosts and the spirits, right? But one day, when Ishwaran told him about the female ghost holding a fetus in her arms, that night, on a full moon night, what happens to him? He woke up suddenly from his sleep and he looked out of the window, noticing a dusky shape holding a bundle in the hand, and he was so shocked to see the same figure, and he was sweating profusely, and he just fell back into his bed panting. So that means he did not believe, that is his personal perception about ghost, but he saw the ghost, you see, exactly the way Ishwaran, narrated by Ishwaran. Okay, so yeah, that was the thing that happened with him, was not so good. That made him to run away and flee the place ASAP, which they did in the last part of the story. Now let's go to the last question. Can you think of some other ending for the story? Well, this is an open question and you all may attach different ending part, you see, the concluding part. Let's say many of you may say that Ishwaran himself perhaps disguised as the woman ghost just to scare and frighten Mahendra. And Mahendra, when he looked out of the window in the middle of the night, he did not see a ghost. Perhaps it was Ishwaran who disguised himself. You see, this is one end that can be attached. You can also say in the later part of the story, because Mahendra never believed into ghosts and the spirits, they did not leave from the place until the construction work was over, right? Until the head in charge of Mahendra permitted him. This is another end that you can attach. So different climax can be attached by you all. I will have a look into your what you have your answer, what you had written down when you upload them on Google Classroom, and a closer look when you give me your CW when we meet up. Okay, so that means we are done with Iswaran, the best storyteller. This is going to be there in your unit test, so kindly learn it well. There may be questions based on reference to context. See, in the textual question here, the references are not given to you. But, excuse me, in your UT, your teachers may give you, your examiners may give you questions that are based on dialogues, words, okay? So it is important for you all to learn the chapter well. And how can you learn well? By reading the chapter and by trying to relate to the hard words. What is the use of that word? Why that word is written down there? Okay? The word bank will not be there, but yes, the questions based on reference to context and the hard content words which are there, they are going to be there. Plus the names of the writers also will have to be prepared. I want you to now start writing your CW. All 5 questions will have to go in your CW. Plus, I am also going to upload a document in which all the value-based questions of what you have learnt so far, and how many questions you should write in your CW, all guidance is going to be there in the document, right? So, kindly start learning. And if there are any questions, you can always clear your doubts from tomorrow onwards. We will have our live sessions being conducted through Google Meet. So I think the interaction will be more powerful, yes, stronger. So I'll see you again tomorrow. Till then, all of you, keep safe and keep learning. Thank you very much.